5069. The carriage of passengers for hire by a commercial pilot is A. Not authorized in a utility category aircraft. B. Not authorized in a limited category aircraft. C. Authorized in restricted category aircraft. The correct answer is B. In restricted category, experimental, and limited category aircraft, no operations for hire or compensation are permitted. Operations involving aircraft of the utility category. 5129. No person may operate an aircraft that has an experimental airworthiness certificate. A. Under Instrument Flight Rules, IFR. B. When carrying property for hire. C. When carrying persons or property for hire. The correct answer is C. According to 14 CFR Section 21.191, no person may operate an aircraft that has an experimental airworthiness certificate when carrying persons or property for hire. This is because experimental aircraft are not considered to be airworthy for the purpose of carrying passengers or cargo. There are a few exceptions to this rule. For example, an experimental aircraft may be used for hire if it is being used for research and development. Experimental aircraft may be used for research and development purposes, such as testing new aircraft designs or flight procedures. Public exhibition. Experimental aircraft may be used for public exhibition, such as air shows or fly-ins. Training. Experimental aircraft may be used for training purposes, such as flight training or flight instruction. If you are considering operating an experimental aircraft for hire, you should contact the FAA to determine if your proposed operation is allowed. 5068-2, which is true with respect to operating limitations of a restricted category airplane. A. A pilot of a restricted category airplane is required to hold a commercial pilot certificate. B. A restricted category airplane is limited to an operating radius of 25 miles from its home base. C. No person may operate a restricted category airplane carrying passengers or property for compensation or hire. The correct answer is C. According to the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, a restricted category aircraft is an aircraft that is certificated for limited, experimental, or research use. Restricted category aircraft are not certificated for airworthiness and are not intended for flight in the National Airspace System, NAS. Here are some of the operating limitations of a restricted category aircraft. The aircraft must be operated by a pilot who holds a valid pilot certificate and is familiar with the aircraft's operating limitations. The aircraft must be operated within a 50-mile radius of its base of operation. The aircraft may not be flown for compensation or hire. The aircraft may not be flown for flight training or exhibition. If you are considering operating a restricted category aircraft, you should contact the FAA to determine if you are eligible to do so. You should also make sure that you are familiar with the aircraft's operating limitations. 5068-3, which is true with respect to operating imitations of a primary category airplane. A primary category airplane is limited to a specified operating radius from its home base. B. No person may operate a primary category airplane carrying passengers or property for compensation or hire. C. A pilot of a primary category airplane must hold a commercial pilot certificate when carrying passengers for compensation or hire. The correct answer is B. Primary category airplanes are designed for personal or recreational use and are not certified for commercial operations. As such, it is illegal to carry passengers or property for compensation or hire in a primary category airplane. Here are some of the reasons why primary category airplanes are not certified for commercial operations. Primary category airplanes are not required to meet the same safety standards as other aircraft. Primary category airplanes may not have been properly tested or certified. Primary category airplanes may have design or operational limitations that make them unsafe for carrying passengers or cargo. By prohibiting the operation of primary category airplanes for hire, the FAA is trying to ensure the safety of the public. 5068-4. An aircraft's operating limitations may be found in the A. FAA-approved Aircraft Flight Manual. B. Owner's Handbook published by the aircraft manufacturer. C. Aircraft Flight Manual, approved manual material, markings and placards, or any combination thereof. The correct answer is C. The FAA-approved Aircraft Flight Manual is the primary source of information for operating an aircraft. It contains information on the aircraft's performance, systems, and limitations. The owner's handbook published by the aircraft manufacturer is also a good source of information, but it is not a substitute for the flight manual. In addition to the flight manual and owner's handbook, operating limitations may also be found in approved manual material, markings, and placards. Approved manual material includes supplements to the flight manual and owner's handbook that are published by the aircraft manufacturer or the FAA. Markings and placards are found on the aircraft itself and provide important information about operating limitations. It is important to be familiar with all of the operating limitations for an aircraft before operating it. These limitations are in place to ensure the safety of the aircraft and its occupants.